So today we're going to bring the old 79 out of winter hibernation here. We were going to move it last night, but realized it was out of gas, so I already put some gas in it, and now we'll let her prime the carb and see how well she starts. You can see the fuel pressure gauge there. Now yes, this does have a quadrijet on it. It's not quite stock, but I find they work pretty good. Some people argue that fact with me, but I just ignore them. I'm not really sure you can argue the fact that the quadrijet carbs are a piece of shit when they sit all winter and they start that easy. I find the majority of people that don't like the quadrijet carbs just don't really understand how to tune them, or they just listen to old wives' tales. Now I will admit that they do have a problem where they suck the fuel bowls dry, but I find if you have a good fuel pump behind them and proper fuel line, and they perform quite well. I've never had an issue with this one sucking the fuel bowls dry, and the motor is tuned on a little bit, but I just find they're the best all-around carburetor myself, so that's what I'm going to run. As you can see, actually I don't know if you can see, well maybe you can see, it is charging, and it's, according to the chev gauge, is making oil pressure. Anybody that knows these old square body gauges knows that the factory gauges are more of a guideline than anything, but maybe someday I'll get a decoded digital dash or something in this, but until that day happens, this is what we got. I think we can complain too much about how the old girl's running after she sat all winter. It is still kind of a... she's a little bit cold-blooded with the cam in her, but when we hadn't had it running last night. Well, we went to do this last night, move it out of the way, so we get the older brother's race car moved out of the mud, but realized it didn't have any gas in it. Which I kind of figured that was coming, because I haven't put gas in it since my birthday in October, so little backstory on this truck. Me and my old man built it when, I think I was 17, maybe 18 at the time. This is actually I think it's its 4th iteration of a motor this time. The first one was a 305 Vortec that I had put a carburetor and HEI distributor on and scattered the bottom end on the highway one night coming home. And the second motor was it was a 350, and it wiped a couple cam lobes out of it. So I decided I'd jump on the 12-valve Cummins bandwagon, and I put a 12-valve Cummins in it. Well, and the problem was I couldn't keep a tranny behind it, because at the time I was using this to tow trailers around and stuff, and couldn't keep a tranny behind it until I finally got a standard that I could afford to stay behind it. And then cracked a piston or something in it. I never did tear the motor down to see what happened, but it got so much blow by that it started pushing the dipstick out and covering the manifold and oil. So out came the 12 valve, and then we built this motor and put in it. It's not really anything fancy, it's just a 305 with some work done to it. Some might say we kind of have an unhealthy obsession with the old square body, seeing as how there's this one, both my brothers are sitting here, and then my tandem dump truck's sitting here as well. It's an old 73 C65. It's got a 427 and a 5 and a 4 in it. Hopefully that'll be our next cold start, is firing it up for the beginning of the year, but I think there's a couple jobs it may actually end up going to over the summer. Not sure how that's going to pan out, but I guess we'll both find out at the same time. Scheme of things, this thing runs just about as close to fuel injection as you can get without having to spend the $500,000 on fuel injection, which I really don't see the need for, because if I let fuel injection sit all winter with no fuel in it, chances are pretty good that there's something going to be messed up. And this thing is every time I go to it after I've worked on something fuel injected all day, it always just fires right up like that and goes back to work. So that's just my opinion on fuel injection. I know there's a time and a place for fuel injection. I just still don't see the need to bring all the classics up to fuel injection standards. I mean, to each their own. I'm not opposed to working on fuel injection. I just much prefer carbureted on the older stuff anyways. But that'll do her for this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.